Jonny Quest didn't start like a cartoon. It started like a warning shot. A world of spies, monsters, and midnight science dropped into Saturday mornings like a live grenade. But beneath the jetpacks and jungle chases, it was danger wearing the mask of adventure. The pitch that crashed but somehow sparked the entire Quest universe. Dr. Zinn's shadow shaping every mastermind that followed. Hollywood's Quest curse turning every revival into a battle to stay alive. These are 12 weird facts about Jonny Quest, where adventure never blinked and the trail never went cold. Number 1. Violence that changed cartoons. Saturday morning had rules, and Jonny Quest shattered every one of them. Kids were supposed to watch talking animals, clumsy wizards, and villains who bounced back after every explosion. But the moment Jonny sprinted across the screen with real bullets snapping past his head, parents felt something shift. This wasn't playtime danger. This was danger drawn with intent. Episodes opened with gunfire that echoed like war documentaries. Soldiers bled, monsters died. Explosions didn't leave dust clouds. They left silence. Even Race Bannon, the bodyguard, moved with the weight of a man who'd been in actual firefights. The show wasn't pretending violence existed. It showed the consequences kids instinctively understood, but TV tried to hide. Letters poured in. Parent groups warned ABC that the show was too realistic, too frightening, too adult. They weren't wrong. Jonny Quest was the first cartoon where a hero could fall, where an enemy didn't stand back up, where adventure had a price. And as ratings climbed, the complaints climbed faster. ABC didn't cancel it because it failed. It canceled it because the world had never seen a children's show brave enough to tell the truth. That adventure, real adventure, always carries a little bit of fear. Number 2. A budget no studio could handle. If Jonny Quest didn't scare the networks, its price tag finished the job. Hanna-Barbera built its empire on cheap tricks, looping backgrounds, limited animation, characters who barely moved unless they had to. But Jonny Quest wasn't made from shortcuts, it was made from ambition. Every frame demanded realism. Artists painted dense jungles, metallic labs, and desert ruins with the detail of movie matte painters. Action scenes were rotoscoped from real stunt footage, each movement traced by hand. Not once, but dozens of times until it looked like flesh and bone instead of ink and paint. The studio even redesigned its entire production pipeline to keep up. Executives panicked when the numbers hit the table. Jonny Quest episodes cost 3 to 4 times more than anything Hanna-Barbera had ever produced. The show looked cinematic, but ABC was stuck paying for a blockbuster every Saturday morning. So when the outrage over violence arrived, when parents wrote letters, watchdog groups protested, and critics questioned whether the show was too real for kids, the network didn't fight back. They didn't have to. The budget gave them the perfect excuse. Jonny Quest wasn't canceled because it failed. It was canceled because it dared to look too good. A masterpiece priced beyond the era that created it. Number 3. A failure that opened new worlds. Every great adventure begins with something falling apart, and Jonny Quest was born from a collapse. Hanna-Barbera spent months preparing Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy, for television. Sets were storyboarded, villains drafted, exotic locations sketched in watercolor brilliance. Animators built worlds they were certain kids would explore for years. Then everything shattered. Overnight, the rights vanished. The project died before a single frame could air, leaving behind nothing but abandoned artwork and a studio full of restless creators. But grief didn't last long. Joe Barbera walked through the wreckage and saw something no one else imagined. What if the wholesome, scout-clean tone of Jack Armstrong wasn't a loss, but a trap finally broken? What if those half-finished sets and early designs could be reborn into a world with sharper teeth? A world filled with monsters, lost cities, super science, and dangers that didn't reset after commercials? Artists dove back in. Spaces once meant for Boy Scout missions became jungles full of prehistoric beasts. Labs meant for simple gadgets now housed experimental tech that glowed like pulp magic. A story built on American virtue transformed into one built on global mystery, a fusion of science, suspense, and high adventure. By salvaging the ruins of a failed pitch, Hanna-Barbera didn't just save a project, they lit a fuse, and the blast became Jonny Quest. Number 4. DNA of pulp hidden in every frame. Jonny Quest didn't come from one idea. It came from an explosion of pulp dreams colliding at once. Once the Jack Armstrong project collapsed, the writers dug into the stories that had shaped their childhoods. Crackling radio serials, dime store novels, and dog-eared adventure paperbacks. They wanted danger that felt tangible and wonder that felt earned. So they gathered their influences like ingredients in a secret formula. The middle of that formula beat with pure pulp. Doc Savage lent his globe-trotting science, secret labs, ancient ruins, and villains armed with impossible machines. Tom Swift supplied the gadgets, robots, hovercrafts, ray guns, wrist communicators pulled straight from proto-sci-fi imagination. Tintin gave it pacing, quick bursts of danger, cliffhangers that jerked the story forward, and exotic lands that felt lived in. Beneath it all pulsed the unmistakable rhythm of the Rick Brant novels. A boy genius, a scientist father, a loyal ex-Marine protector, and a young Indian companion who balanced grit with grace. Jonny Quest didn't copy any of these influences. It fused them until the seams disappeared. By mixing them together, the creators built something new, a world where science and myth shared the same map, and every episode felt like stepping into another lost chapter of pulp history. Jonny Quest wasn't just inspired by adventure fiction, it became the beating heart of it, reborn in ink, color, and danger. Number 5. A soundtrack built for danger. Before Jonny Quest ever fired a shot, its music struck first. While other cartoons tiptoed in with soft sitcom jingles, Jonny arrived with brass that roared, drums that marched, and a melody that felt like a mission briefing. Kids didn't know the terminology, jazz orchestra, military percussion, syncopated horns, but they felt the impact. It didn't sound like a cartoon, it sounded like a film. Composer Hoyt Curtin didn't hold back. He built the theme like an action overture, trumpets slicing through the mix, snares rattling like rapid fire, bass lines thundering beneath airplane dives and jungle slides. Even the quiet cues carried weight, pulsing with spy thriller suspense that belonged on the big screen, not a living room TV. And that's why the music still hits today. It didn't just underscore the adventure, it made every scene feel larger, louder, and braver than childhood had any right to be. Number 6. A role that almost never existed. Haji wasn't meant to stand beside Jonny. He was barely meant to exist at all. In the earliest sketches, he was just a shadow in the background, a quiet kid who drifted in and out of Race Bannon's missions with no lines, no purpose, and no identity. A nameless extra in a show built on noise and danger. But as the writers shaped the world, something felt hollow. Jonny and Race had science and muscle, but no heart, no calm center, no friend who could match the danger with wisdom instead of fists. So they rewrote him, slowly at first, then all at once. The quiet extra became Jonny's adopted brother, a partner in adventure, a voice of reason in a world of monsters and madmen. And suddenly, the Quest team clicked. He wasn't an afterthought anymore. He was family, the piece that made the adventure feel human. Feel that world travel rush coming back? If you want to step back into those wild missions and relive that classic 60s thrill again, you can grab your own copy through the links below. DVD, Blu-ray, or even VHS if you're old school. Thanks for the support. It really means a lot. Now, let's dive right back into the adventure. Number 7. A mastermind built to endure. Dr. Zinn wasn't created as a one-off foe. He was built to haunt the series. When Jonny Quest's writers searched for a villain big enough to anchor a globe-spanning adventure, they fused pulp archetypes into one figure: the genius scientist, the shadowy mastermind, the puppet master who could unleash monsters, machines, and conspiracies from behind a single glowing screen. Zinn became the show's dark reflection, brilliant where Dr. Quest was noble, meticulous where Race was impulsive, and ruthless enough to make every invention feel like a threat. His presence shaped the tone of the series. Zinn brought continuity to a show built on globetrotters and standalone adventures, giving Jonny his first true nemesis, a villain whose mind was more dangerous than any creature they faced. And long after 1964, his shadow stretched outward. Batman's Ra's al Ghul, G.I. Joe's Cobra Commander, countless animated masterminds owe something to Zinn's icy poise and elegant menace. He wasn't just Jonny's enemy. He became the blueprint for the super scientist villain, the calm voice in the dark that made adventure thrilling. Number 8. Parenting hidden in plain sight. In 1993, Cartoon Network ran a tongue-in-cheek poll asking fans to vote for their favorite cartoon mom. It was meant as a joke, until the joke became legend. Race Bannon won, the ex-Marine, the bodyguard who punched robots, shot mercenaries, and drove hovercrafts into burning lairs. Kids didn't pick Wilma Flintstone or Jane Jetson. They picked the man who checked homework with the same intensity he used to fight dinosaurs. Because deep down, everyone understood the truth. Race wasn't just muscle. He was the one who showed up, the one who cooked meals, protected the family, set the rules, and quietly held the Quest household together while the world exploded around them. In the most absurd poll imaginable, fans revealed something honest. The toughest man in animation was also its most devoted parent. Number 9. Reruns that rebuilt a legend. Jonny Quest died young, only 26 episodes, but Syndication resurrected him bigger than ever. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the show played like a global heartbeat. After school, Saturday mornings, late-night cartoon blocks. Kids who weren't alive in 1964 grew up thinking Quest Industries was still running missions somewhere out there. Reruns didn't just keep the show alive, they rewrote its history. Generations swore the series had multiple seasons, long arcs, even lost episodes. That illusion came from sheer repetition. The same 26 adventures adventures burned into memory until they felt endless. A one-season experiment became a 3-decade phenomenon, not because the show lasted, but because it refused to disappear. Number 10. A blueprint for future worlds. Some shows leave footprints. Jonny Quest left blueprints. Animators across decades studied its shadow-heavy staging, its globe-trotting tone, and its commitment to treating kids like adults. It wasn't fantasy. It was pulp realism, drawn with grit instead of giggles. As the industry evolved, Jonny's fingerprints appeared everywhere. Batman, the animated series, borrowed its moody lighting and cinematic angles. The Incredibles echoed its family adventure DNA, a scientist father, a bold kid, and danger that felt real. Archer lifted its spy pulp aesthetic outright, turning Quest's seriousness into adult comedy. And the Venture Brothers didn't hide its homage. It built an entire world poking fun at the trauma left behind by shows exactly like Jonny Quest. One season should have faded. Instead, Jonny Quest became the spark creators returned to again and again, a single childhood adventure that grew into an entire universe of stories. Number 11. Shadows that deepened the myth. The original Jonny Quest flirted with danger. The 1986 reboot dove straight into it. Where the 64 series hinted at monsters and mystery, the new adventures of Jonny Quest embraced the darkness outright. Creatures were fiercer, tech was stranger, and the world felt sharper, colder, and far less forgiving. It wasn't a nostalgia trip, it was escalation. Behind the scenes, the team made a choice. Don't soften the legend, intensify it. They pushed animation further than Hanna-Barbera ever had. Heavier shadows, quicker pacing, and set pieces that felt ripped from live-action thrillers. Race fought harder, Jonny risked more, and Haji's quiet brilliance grounded the chaos. It was the same crew of heroes, but now thrown into stories that hit like pulp novels turned cinematic nightmares. And for fans who'd waited decades, it wasn't just a reboot. It was the Jonny Quest the 60s never dared to unleash. Number 12. Hollywood's Endless Quest. Hollywood has been trying to bring Jonny Quest to life longer than Jonny's been alive. Every few years, the project crawls out of development hell wearing a new face, a new director, a new script, a new promise that this time, the Quest family will finally reach the big screen. But each attempt runs into the same trap. Jonny Quest isn't just an adventure story. It's globe-trotting pulp, spy thriller, sci-fi mystery, and family saga all tangled into one. A blend even studios struggle to bottle. Robert Rodriguez came the closest. He pitched a gritty, modern Quest that honored the danger and swagger of the 64 original. Pre-visuals were made, concept art circulated. Insiders swore it was finally happening. Then the rights shifted again, contracts expired, and the project fell back into silence. Yet studios never let it go, because deep down, they know what fans know. If someone ever cracks the code, Jonny Quest won't just make a movie, it'll ignite a universe. Bonus fact: before space operas and fantasy realms took over kids' TV, Jonny Quest made a bold choice. It stayed on Earth. But it wasn't the Earth kids knew. Every week was a new map. Amazon rivers crawling with monsters. Arctic bases buried in ice. Himalayan cliffs where avalanches roared like gods. Jungle temples, desert ruins, bustling foreign cities, all drawn with pulpy intensity and treated like danger waiting to happen. There were no imaginary kingdoms, no alien planets, no safe cartoon shortcuts, just the real world, made vast and thrilling. For kids in 1964, it was a revelation, their first passport to a planet big enough for adventure and wild enough to capture every dream they didn't know they had. Jonny Quest didn't change the world with magic or superpowers. It changed it with wonder. A boy who ran straight into danger, a father chasing truth through science, a bodyguard who treated courage like oxygen, and a family built not by blood, but by loyalty. One season should have made it disappear. Instead, it ignited an entire generation, inspiring animators, filmmakers, dreamers, and every kid who ever stared at a map and felt something calling beyond the horizon, because Jonny wasn't fearless. He was curious, and sometimes that's the bravest thing of all. If this world ever lit a spark in you, drop a comment. Tell us what adventure we should chase next, because real adventure doesn't end with a final episode. It begins with a memory that refuses to let go.